PodTalks with Phil Blizzard, talking to business leaders, innovators, sports stars, and celebrities.
Hello and welcome to PodTalks, and this is going to be something of an adventure, an exciting journey as I talk to Adrian Hayes, who's been on one or two exciting journeys himself. He's climbed Mount Everest, he's walked to the North Pole, the South Pole, which gave him his first Guinness World Record for the Three Poles Challenge. He's also got another world record because he did the longest unsupported snowkiting journey in Arctic history, 3,000 plus kilometers across the ice cap of Greenland, and from the cold, icy desert to the hot desert. He completed a crossing of the Rup al-Khali, the empty quarter, by foot and camel. He's also climbed K2, the second highest mountain in the world, and he's going back to do the third highest. We'll find out about that in detail, what it takes to climb a massive mountain over 8,000 meters. What else has he done? Well, we'll be finding out in this, as I say, a fascinating journey with Adrian Hayes.
PodTalks with Phil Blizzard, talking to business leaders, innovators, sports stars, and celebrities.
So, Adrian, off on another expedition after quite a gap from your last one. Tell us about this one, which is not far away.
Let me tell you about the gap. Yeah, so I was a semi-professional adventurer when I left Airbus back in 2006. So from 2007 to 2017, was doing these big, what I call them, long camping trips for, for sponsors, big things, along with my other work. And but 2017, so what we it's Everest. It was the North Pole, the South Pole, length of Greenland, across the empty quarter. Then I tried K2 twice, and then another one, a mountain, the fifth highest world. But I had to go back to UK to basically bring up my teenage daughter.
Okay.
And I can tell you that's harder than climbing Everest, the North Pole, South Pole put together.
A very demanding daughter by the sound of it.
Yeah,
I want to say something about Airbus. That's where we first met. I think it might have been the air show, and I was doing the radio stuff, and that's where we first met. You went from sales into what you're doing now. Yeah,
well, I got into the human development side. I actually got into it, back in the late 90s, and I thought, I thought about it, but going to HR, but HR is procedures and policies and remuneration. I ended up in sales and fantastic job there, but the passion was always with people. So that and I got in the coaching world sort of 2004, 2005, and then and I could speak a bit, and all this, but the adventuring side, there was unfinished business right from when I've been doing it all since I was 17. I thought, look, let's go on my own. It's a big call to go out on your own, and but it seemed to work. And last year was the busiest I've been for a long time. So good.
A quick flashback to Dubai. I remember one occasion you were out on the beach and you were dragging, I think with a big metal chain, a load of tyres in training for one of your adventures. I remember that quite clearly.
Yeah, Kite Beach, which is now a great beach track and cafes and coffee shops and all these things. And before that it was a primitive thing. And that's what you do. You're pulling tyres. People looked at me and thought, what is this idiot doing? Where is this? Has he lost his car in the sand or something? Give me the tow. Yeah. So that was it. But that's for polar stuff, because you're putting this massive weight behind you. For the mountains, you're going up, big steep hills. You can't, and you do what you're going to be doing. And I've got to say about the UAE and Oman, it's just fantastic training grounds. It's the best training ground in the world because the trails are so rugged. And you get up to 2,000 meters. It's brilliant training.
And of course, you've done the empty quarter. You've done the trek across that. So desert to snow.
That was a documentary. It was a real cultural thing, really. And I spoke Arabic because my last job in the army was, so I speak Nepalese because I was in the Gurkhas for, total service was 12 years.
Danyabad. That's the word I know.
Danyabad
and namaste.
Yes, namaste. You learn Arabic. I learned Arabic to go down to Salalah, southern Oman.
Excellent,
and that was my entry into the Gulf, and sort of, so I had that dream then back in those days, and then I went back there. But going to, the question, so I've had to, from 2015, the Makalu, the fifth highest mountain, 2016, 2016, I was looking at trying to climb Kanchenjunga, which is the one I'm about to do. And then 17, 18, 19, full on with daughter. Then, of course, 2021, 22, full on with lockdowns.
Sure.
And it's only now with that, the world coming back to normal, daughters getting independent, that I can go back to the big stuff.
So regarding the big stuff, catch her. And how is this going to compare? Let's sort of set the scene for people who are not familiar with these high peaks in the Himalayas, apart from Everest, of course. How does it compare with Everest
Well, that's a very good. There's two sides
from
of
a
an answer.
climbing perspective?
Let's Everest. Everyone knows K2 pretty much. Most people know the second. You ask them the third highest, and so they
Sure.
don't know. Nobody knows this mountain. Eastern Nepal, the far east. It's the furthest east of the 14 8,000-meter peaks in the world, which a lot of people have seen from a documentary called 14 Peaks.
Yep.
Far Eastern. From a climbing perspective, let's just talk about it. It's big. It's a huge massive. It's got 5 different peaks, but the main one's the longest summit push from the last camp to the top of any mountain on Earth. It's huge.
Right.
It's steep. It's technical. It's got a vertical rock wall. And there's not that many people do it. And you asked to compare Everest this season, because it's always April, May is the spring climbing season. There will be hundreds of people up there. There will be probably, I don't know, 600, 700 permits. Probably, in fact, the Sherpa to client ratio now is nearly 2 to 1. So if you say let's round it up, 700, you're going to have about 1,400 or 1,200 Sherpas.
Yeah.
Bottle washers, dishwashers, cooks. It's like
an industry, isn't it? Huge income for the Nepalese.
It is, and of course it's not. There's those of us. Look, nothing's ever the same. Look, Dubai's not the same. London, the UK, everything changes. So you've got to accept that. I'm a little bit. Why are people doing that? Which goes on to a different, my coaching app. From a pure climbing perspective, Kanchenjunga, as it's called, will have less than 30 climbers and a few Sherpas. So
That's very different,
small
isn't it?
numbers.
Yeah,
which is great.
Going back in time, back to the climbing of olden days, and when it was a very small niche event market or activity, wasn't it? Really
small number of people. So you're back to that, and it'd be interesting to see. There'll be some who are trying to do all 14, but there'll be others like me who just want to do this one. And going back to this one, this was in my Gurkha regiment. I served as for 9 years with the Gurkhas. My Gurkha regiment was an Eastern Gurkha regiment, so I saw this mountain 30 years ago, and first saw it, and I always had a dream. It's a very special place to me. I've been back to Nepal many times.
So how's it going to evolve? What's the logistics? What's the training program to enable you and your team to get to the summit?
Well, firstly, my team, I tried to get my buddy from K2, but he had to pull out. So I tried to form a team myself, and then I couldn't, and because there's not many people doing it. I'm joining another team.
Okay.
So I don't know what they're doing, but we'll be semi-independent. But the training regime is pretty brutal, Phil. It's
sure.
You don't train for a marathon pushing weights in a gym. I mean, that's supplementary, and you don't train for going up a big mountain, going around a park with some poles. Big mountains up in the UAE and Oman a lot of the time, because I'm there 50% of the time, or down here. And then that's what it is: stair climbing, some big buildings in Dubai, which are very useful. And everything else, running, weight training, rock climbing, swimming, cycling, all supplementary. So that's it. But I think the last 3 months, you just become this huge, but both physically and mentally, it just closes in. The last few weeks has been absolutely full on. I'm in another zone, this tunnel vision zone, nothing else.
Well, I'm glad I've pulled you out of that zone for this chat.
Well, you know, actually, and frankly, but I've done it a lot of time before. I travel a lot for my work. I know. You know what has to be done, but you're meticulous with the planning and preparation. Meticulous. The kit is everything.
So when you arrive in Nepal, how many days before the summit? Yeah, before the summit attempt.
Sunday the 7th from 7th of April from UK. Get to Nepal Monday night. I've got a day in Dubai on the way.
Yep.
A couple of days in Kathmandu. Again, a lot of my kit's been stored in Kathmandu since 20 years actually.
Really? Perfect.
Do that, then fly to Eastern Nepal. Start the first 2 days is drives, and I've got Gurkha reunion events to go to on the drive in.
Okay.
And then we start trekking for a few days. And then we have to get a chopper, because it's actually it's a glacier. It's quite dangerous. A chopper to base camp. So I'll be base camp roughly, where are we now? Yeah, about 19th. It's 10 days time from
Okay,
from
and what's
from when we get to
what's the altitude at base camp?
5,400 meters, so it's pretty
50s.
high.
Yeah, yeah.
And then how you do these big mountains, and a lot of people don't know because they ask me how long does it take, and I say, well, it's 2 months. The whole trip's are 2 months. But from when you get to base camp, so let's say 5 to 6 weeks, you do what's called a rotation. So
Okay.
you go up to camp one, take kit, take tents, sleeping bag, that sort of thing, and you stay there for a couple of days to acclimatize.
Climb,
This is a
sure,
big
yeah.
thing. And then
Yeah.
you go up to camp two, touch that, down again. So that'd be about a 4 day trip. Wait for another weather window, then go to camp one. This time you go straight on to camp two, which is higher, and then do a touch to camp three, down again, another 4 day rotation, and then you're ready for the summit push, which is camp one, camp two, camp three,
Yeah,
camp
yeah,
four.
yeah.
Get there over 4 days, then up through the night to the top and back again. And that's what I said was the longest summit push of any in the world. And then another couple of days get down base camp.
Right, so it's all mapped out with rotation, you say.
That's all, yeah. So
And
about
what's going to be
7 weeks
your
settling.
specific role, or do you sort of just muck in and do everything?
I will no. I'll be part of a team, and I'll either buddy up with one of these teammates or buddy up with a Sherpa. We do our own things usually on rotations,
Yeah,
but the summit push, you've always got to be with somebody.
of
This
course.
this idea, someone was left on their own, and there's lots sadly fatalities. No,
Mm.
always with somebody so they can call help, whatever it needs to do. You can't always get a helicopter up there,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what it involves.
And other aspects of logistics. I mean, the whole team's got to be fed, watered.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you
you
have?
get
Are you doing that all yourself, or will you have
no.
assistance?
Base camps as a logistic provider you'll
Yeah.
provide. I'm going with a company called Asian Trekking. We're very good, and I've been with them before. I did a warm-up climb last year of a 7,000 meter peak, really steep, really technical, just to see how the body works, the body,
Yeah.
the mentality. And at my tender, or rather old age, it seems to be working all right still. So anyway,
We won't mention that, but you're not far off
well,
the
we won't mention
UK.
that,
No, okay, right, what's anymore? One of the challenges you're talking about is the near vertical rock face towards the summit. What is
yeah.
the length of that, and is it going to be sort
It's
of?
a good old. It's a good 50 meters from what I'm reading all the. I've been reading this thing for years,
Yeah.
but quite a steep rock face. Look, this is nothing technical, and I rock climb, and I love the sport, and
Okay.
overhanging rock faces with a t-shirt, sometimes even a bare top, and you're absolutely, and a coolie down there, but with
Yeah.
big mittens on and big down jackets and things. It's a lot different. So all the
Different
challenges, and look, the biggest challenge is altitude, and anyone who's been, it's no respecter of age, of fitness, of ability, of skills, of gender, or whatever. You get altitude, and I get it. I get altitude
I
sickness.
climbed, well, not climbed. I did a tourist trip to the top of Jungfrau a few years ago,
Okay,
and that got
right.
to me. My, and that's what I don't know.
3,000,
Yeah, it's
what is
11,000,
it? Yeah.
11,000 feet.
11,000 feet, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
3,000,
yeah, yeah. So,
5,000 medium.
yeah. It was a good one.
So,
I mean, went on a train up through the north face of the Eiger, I suppose. And you
yes.
stop halfway up. There's a big window in the rock to look out, and good because they help you acclimatise a little bit. You were there for half
I'm
an hour.
surprised you didn't climb the North Face.
Yeah, exactly. I should have done.
I should have done. Next time.
Next time, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, but
So, well, yeah, good luck with all of this, and you must be
Yeah.
quite glad to get back into it, a big climb after the gap of 10
yeah,
years.
but I think what's changed, and there's a so the last big climb was 9 years ago. The last summit was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The world has changed massively in that 10 years. Adventuring, Everest has changed. It's now it's a very commercial experience. And I think,
yeah.
probably I've changed as well. I think,
well.
and I always do wonder, yes, back in all the big projects up to K2 and after were for the achievement. It's one of my values. It's, everything
sure.
I've done in my life has been achievement. I think it's a much more holistic view of this one. You still achieve big things, but it's not that need to prove myself.
Yeah.
And I think this is the difference. I think what we've got now, and it's exploding, the number of on Everest and adventures. And I've said this to many times, but it's become about this, the selfie.
I was going to say, it's the social media.
It's the social media, the need to prove yourself, the recognition, the respect, the comments, the likes, the followers. And And I don't need that. I had to be forced to put up a post on LinkedIn the other day. I already thought, okay, well, I bet I will. A lot of people ask me,
Well, glad you
please
did, 'cause
share
that's
the
how we
things.
reconnected after quite some time, by saying that
Yeah,
post, and also some of your TV stuff from before. But
and I will put a bit on Facebook and stuff, but it'll be just as much picture of the beauty of the mountain. It won't be me. Here
yeah,
I am. Look at me. There's this
it's like a,
basically, yeah, and I think this is where particularly the younger people don't realize how they're getting sucked into this thing. And I speak a lot on my other roles, my other working hats, which I hope we'll
come on to
talk
in a
about
moment.
quickly in a second. But how these things are so addictive, and you get that. And Phil, I can see for myself the last big major. I recognize, hold on, am I still doing this for myself, which I've always done it, or am I doing it for all these comments and these likes and these, Adrian, you're an inspiration to the
Yeah.
world. Rubbish.
You're doing it for
Rubbish. I'm
yourself,
not,
but as you
I'm doing
say,
it for myself.
it is this, because you see it. I'm in Brecon at the moment. You've got Penny Fan, which is the highest mountain in southern Britain. Same thing there. Snowdon in North Wales. I mean, phenomenal. The queues to get to the top. And I even saw it today, a report from Madeira, with one of the mountains in the Portuguese islands in the
I know,
Atlantic.
yes, I know
Same
Madeira.
thing there. Queues, like,
And
enormous.
everyone wants to show that subconsciously or consciously want to post this, so they get this wow. And I think they've done some science actually. When you go somewhere, and most people these days they get somewhere and their instant self-field picture, you don't take in the sight or the views
You
or
don't.
the feeling. You're a different part of the brain
Sure.
gets activated by putting it on there.
And it's the same with music concerts. People standing there taking photos of this big
Yeah.
act on stage, and they don't even sort of embrace what the artists are doing.
I know Chris Martin of Coldplay, who I
Yeah.
love the band, and I remember one of the concerts said, "Everyone, put the phones away, put the phones away. He said, just feel the experience, feel the
I
experience."
saw Bob Dylan, and he didn't allow any. This was just a couple of years ago. No cameras whatsoever. They got taken off as you went in, and what a difference it was. People absorbed.
When Bob Dylan started, there wasn't such things, but it's a long time. Is he still playing? Wow.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it was in fact 18 months ago in Cardiff.
wow.
Yeah, incredible.
Good grief.
Right, onto your other side of life, your corporate world, and I've seen the occasional posts of you doing stuff with big organisations in front of big crowds. So when it's like that, how do you relate to, how do you get your message across individually when it's a massive corporation?
Well, so look, let me turn my working hat. So I am a speaker. I'm not a motivational speaker. I hate the term. But I'm a speaker. I'm a coach, consultant, facilitator, mentor. So my big programs, social commentator on TV, a few documentaries looking at some more, a few campaigns, a few books, all the rest of it. But the core work is the speaking and the coaching consulting. Now, I go back. The speaking is typically your company offsite or an event, a public event, and you speak for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or some of this. Now, the only time I speak as much about change management, about risk, about leadership, about winning teams, about values, about communication, as I do my stuff. And I think it's a big misconception. I think a lot of people, yes, there are some things I'm asked to speak about my ventures, but mostly most companies want what you've got in there. And as a professional coach, I deal with leadership and real teamwork and real human development. That's my core work. And the coaching consulting is basically longer programs over a day, 2 days, 3 days, 6 months, 4 months. So that's the core work you do. And I know it's very common. People say you must be your transferable skills, what you learn on the mountain climbing K2. You can relate to companies. And a lot of people say that, but I actually, there are some things.
I was
Things
going
like
to say,
risk.
what can you sort of take across from K2 to
You
the
can,
corporate?
but to be honest, Phil, I take the other lessons of the human development, the leadership development, the team development stuff, and I put this stuff into my expedition. So there's a push and pull.
Okay, yeah,
So
sure, yeah.
you see that it's not just the lessons I learned; it's the lessons I've learned from creating winning teams, and top sporting teams have it. Expedition teams, military teams, space teams. I was an advisor on a space program. Corporate teams do a once a year team building day, crossing the gap with a plank of wood and planks of wood and
sure.
2 barrels. So it's a push and pull. But to answer your question, yes, of course, risk is one little thing, but real communication is another thing. The lessons from these things, you can't afford to get communication wrong. Feedback. We have a clear agreement of giving and receiving feedback. Because if you're climbing up a sheer rock face and you're festering about, I've got to see something to my teammate, and I don't know if he's going to get upset about it, your eye is off the ball.
Sure.
So these things, these are sort of things I bring in. And risk is a very, very passionate subject. You have a very unemotional, very logical, rational attitude to risk, and one of the key things, like the whole load of parameters I bring in, but one of them is being very clear about the objective. And I've said this before. I'm not climbing Kanchenjunga to inspire people to achieve their goals and their dreams and all these things. If you want to do that, become a coach or a therapist or a counselor or a motivational speaker.
So why are you climbing it?
Well, hold on.
Spill the beans. Yeah.
I'm not doing it to raise awareness of some cause. I'm not doing it to raise awareness of climate change. If you want to do these, you become a scientist, you become a charity. Why I'm doing it is for myself, and you said it there. I'm doing it for myself. It's living my values. It's living a life. It's actually stepping out my comfort zone and achieving these goals. And it's just something. Now, if it does on the way inspire people, that's fine. But it's not. I do my other work is for that.
So you're being perfectly honest. It's very selfish. It's for you.
Yeah, and if I was raising money for charity, and I looked at justgiving.com, I checked out 40 odd Everest climbs. They're doing it to raise money for this cause, and the average amount people were raising was $5,000. Well, it cost $50,000 to do. So why, if you're doing it for that cause,
just give them
$50,000, and 3 years you put direct to the cause. I do my other work for the world. That's separate to what I'm doing there. But so it's for me, but I just want to say it's for there's a humility and humbleness which I hope it's not. Nature's very powerful. And there are a lot of lessons, and I think we need to all get off our computers and the noise in the world and get into nature. You don't have to go to Kanchenjunga. You can go in the mountains of Oman or UAE or Broken Beacons or Jungfrau.
In the UAE, you've got so many good places on your doorstep. In the UK, you don't have to travel too far really to get in an area of semi-wilderness. So perhaps very lucky in that respect. And as you say, putting this down, disconnecting for a day or so, whatever, it's so good. So good.
And you know what? On the positive side, society isn't all that good these days. But I think more people are getting into nature and realizing it's. If it's more about experiences and less about stuff, because buying that latest handbag or the new pair of shoes or the what's Jack Grealish? Sorry, Jack, but he had £1 million worth of jewelry stolen from his house in Burberry a few months ago.
I didn't know.
Do you want £1 million?
Exactly.
Exactly. Experience is the main thing.
Yes, indeed. So, something else you've done is theatre tours. Last year, wasn't it? You did a theatre tour, which was obviously looking at your expeditions and achievements.
We actually postponed that, and I caught.
Really?
It wasn't the right time. It was actually 2022, I think it was, or was it 23? Yeah, some venues didn't have the staff. It was the post-COVID era, and it wasn't the right time for me. And I thought,
are you reconsidering?
Let's yes, but it becomes. Look, I'm the first one to say, and this goes back to hopefully the humbleness, that there's far better mountaineers than me out there. There's far better polar explorers, desert explorers, sailors, Ironman, all these things. I just do everything. And again, and all this adventure side is only one part of my work. And I think, there's some real icons, amazing guys who've done some stuff who deserve the credits for that. I've done quite a few things in the military outfit, but it's no big claims to be the best at anything.
Talking of Oman a little while ago at the start in many ways, there's one British chap there, David Neild, who was the soldier of Arabia, and he was in the Trucial State Army for a while, then he moved up to set up the army for the ruler of Ras Al Khaimah.
Yes.
And he was someone I had the pleasure of doing a sort of documentary for 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Sadly passed away about 2 years ago. But he was quite an inspirational character, a pioneer for various army activities in Oman and also Ras Al Khaimah. So, you've done a lot of good things. And
it's a very good thing because, look, the the army, when I speak to my former colonel, who spent 8 years total based in Nepal, and Eastern Nepal, their old recruiting depot, Dharan. It's the last remnants of, we're lucky. We have a battalion based in Brunei, still one in UK. But yeah, what they did in the services before East of Suez, was nothing compared to what we do today. Now, I left the army quite a long time ago, quite a few years ago. So, but yeah, and these guys, what David did, pioneers and real hardship. I think.
And of course,
different forces these days.
Yeah, very much so. And the Gurkhas, strong affinity with them because of your professional career with them, and they're going strong, aren't they? They really are a special brigade within the UK Army.
There's a huge recruitment problem within service. All three services within the British forces. You could get 10 times the number of Gurkhas. They would do it. In fact, the Indian Army, we've got about 3,000. Soldiers in the brigade in the British Army. Indian Armies, I think it's about 100,000.
Really?
They recruit Gurkha soldiers from the hills of Nepal to serve in the Indian with Indian Army officers. So yeah, it's a very, very, very special bond and a special bond with Nepal. And I say these two reunions, I did it. My regiment does a duty visit every year. One British officer does it. It was so rewarding 2 years ago. Absolutely incredible. These old boys in the hills who didn't know me from Adam, but the respect they had, that struggling to their feet, they could barely walk on them to
really
say
phenomenal.
Thank you. It was. I'm so looking forward to that.
Must be
very special.
A pleasure. It'll be embracing you when you do your stops on the way to the climb. I've had the pleasure of going to Kathmandu once, and I should go back sooner rather than later. And a flight around Emirates was one of the high spots of the trip on Buddha Air. That was phenomenal.
Yeti Airways, Yak Air,
all of those.
I think that's scary. Kathmandu sadly is so polluted now as to get out. Pokhara, if you've got a short trip, Eid al-Fitr coming up, Pokhara getting down there quite quickly.
Yeah, sounds good.
The mountains are right there visible. Everest, it takes a few days to get to Everest.
Well, I've just got a warning sign saying our time's up in a few minutes. A final step. Just relive the final steps to the top of Everest for us.
It was surreal. My oxygen mask failed, so I was behind my teammates on the way up, so I did most of it without oxygen. Got it working the last hour. And you're going to get up there 1 or 2 hours before, and I was pinching myself. It was just on my own, one Sherpa with me. I just couldn't believe it. It's the most incredible experience. I was on my own on the top for well over an hour 15. Absolutely incredible. You can never replay that experience.
And what a high spot there to finish off our conversation. So Adrian, thanks very much indeed. Well, you wouldn't do that now, an hour at the top of Everest, would you? There'd be sort of thousands behind you.
Crowds and crowds and crowds and crowds. Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
PodTalks is a Phil Blizzard media production, and if you'd like to have your own podcast, do drop me an email on philblizzardmedia@gmail.com.
A Phil Blizzard radio production.
PodTalks is available on Apple, Amazon, Angami, Spotify, Deezer, Google, and all good podcast channels, and also now on YouTube.